I thought we'd take a moment today as we are focused on the ministry of the congregation to review the list someone posted, which I've revised slightly, for what makes a perfect pastor. Titled The Perfect Pastor. The perfect pastor preaches exactly 10 minutes. They condemn sin but never hurt anyone's feelings. They work from 8 a.m. until midnight and are also the church janitor. The perfect pastor makes $40 a week, wears good clothes, drives a good car, buys good books, but donates $30 a week to the church. They are 29 years old and have 40 years of experience. They're really good looking. You and I think we have that. Yeah, we're good with that. Yeah. Oh, thank you. The perfect pastor has a burning desire to work with teenagers and yet spends most of their time with senior citizens. Smiles all the time, has a great sense of humor, but is always professional and serious. Has great boundaries when it comes to nurturing self-care, while being completely dedicated to whatever congregant needs, whatever they want, at any time of day or night. Makes 15 home visits a day, and yet is always in the office to be handy. The perfect pastor always has time for the board and to meet all the needs of all the committees and never misses any congregational activity. He never, or she, or they, never proselytize, but are always busy telling everyone how great UUCF is. And the perfect pastor is always in the congregation next door. Now, if you don't have the perfect pastor, here is some advice they give. If your pastor does not measure up, simply send a letter about this to 6 other congregations that are also tired of their pastor. Then bundle up your pastor and send your pastor to them, to the congregation at the top of the list. If everyone cooperates in a week, you will receive 1,643 pastors. One of them should be perfect. Have faith in the letter, or one congregation broke the chain and got its old pastor back in 3 months. How do you think we feel? This list may give some insight into why a colleague of mine and mentor of mine once said to me, "David, all ministry is interim ministry." What I have always taken this to mean is that in the life of a congregation, part of the job of the minister is to do a good job for the congregation during the time that you are there and try your best to leave the place healthy and thriving as much as possible for whatever minister will come next. Our UUCF ministry is built on those who came before us and those before them, and I'm sure that not one of these people was the perfect pastor for everyone. I know some of you know this all too well, but ministers are incredibly human. We get tired and frustrated, discouraged, happy, sad, despairing, hurt, insecure, angry, burnt out, inspired, joyful, excited, hopeful, and everything else that all the rest of us feel all the time. We try to do what we can to maximize our gifts and minimize our challenges. We pledge to serve as best we can our own sense of calling, the larger calling of Unitarian Universalism that we have pledged to also serve, and the mission of the congregation and the people that we have been called to serve. We do this while all the time trying to maintain a non-anxious presence and a loving presence in a world too often defined by isolation, polarization, individualism, and far too much othering. As a solo minister for 6 years in my first congregation, I certainly had colleagues who provided me with love and support during the course of my ministry. But it's not the same as having a ministry partner. There have been a couple of ministry partners here at UUCF over the last 9.5 years of my ministry, and for each one I am grateful for the various gifts they have brought to this congregation. And that's also very true for the wonderful gifts that have been given to this congregation over the last 3 years and 3 months by my partner in ministry, Reverend Christin Green. Now, just to remind you, Christin started working here when none of us were actually coming here. She started during the pandemic. How weird that must have been. There certainly were other ministries that began during the pandemic, and how weird it must have been for any minister who had to begin their ministry via Zoom. But she did, and I'm not saying that there haven't been other tumultuous times in the history of the world to serve in ministry, but I would say that these last 3 years rank pretty high on the list of tumult. Now, next year will be the 70th anniversary of the founding of UUCF in 1955. As a side note, I think we should start planning for the 75th celebration. Reverend Christin's ministry to this congregation will be one for which we will be grateful for many, many years to come. She's brought a perspective of ministry and life that I have deeply appreciated, that has helped us all live more fully into our best selves and will resonate for many years to come. She has a few things to say, but before she does, I wanted to say that I will miss you greatly, as we have talked about numerous times in private. And I'm so grateful to have shared these last 3 or so years. And I am excited about your future and pledge to do what I can to be a colleague who will love and support you as you travel into the next phase of your exciting journey.
Thank you, Reverend David. Just drinking you in. Friends, I don't want to keep you waiting too much longer on good news, because part of my message is that I will be okay. So, just yesterday morning, I took a drive up to York, Pennsylvania, and I signed a contract to be their senior minister. That begins in August, so their minister will finish out their time there, and I will begin in August. Something else that's happening, I have been accepted to the Doctorate of Ministry program at Wesley Theological Seminary. I begin those studies in May to earn my Reverend Dr. Christin Green status. The focus of that program will be on soul care, the care of souls, and I'm really looking forward to that. Lastly, I have been asked by many of you and have responded. I endeavor to publish some of my writings, my prayers, meditations, and poems over the next year. Several of my writings are available now on a website called UUA Worship Web. In the meantime, but it has been an absolute honor and privilege to build and grow and create with you over the last 3 years and 3 months. As we come to the end of our time together, I turn, as I often do, to the words of Adrienne Marie Brown, who says, "Remember, you are water. Of course, you leave salt trails. Of course, you are crying. Flow. But P.S., if there happens to be a multitude of griefs upon you, individual and collective, or fast and slow, or small and large, add equal parts of these considerations. That a broken heart can cover more territory. That perhaps love can only be as large as grief demands. That grief is the growing up of the heart that bursts boundaries like an old skin or a finished life. That grief is gratitude. That water seeks scale, that even your tears seek the recognition of community. That the heart is a front line and the fight is to feel in a world of distraction. That your grief is worthwhile use of your time. That your body will feel only as much as it is able. That the ones you grieve may also be grieving you. That the sacred comes from the limitations. That you are excellent at loving. You really are excellent at loving. I have been loved so hard during these past 3 years. I can't tell you how much it has meant to me. Support during really difficult times in my life. Encouragement to be my highest and best. I am so grateful for the time that we've had together. Over the next year, I will be refocusing my energies on my new assignment, and I hope that you will focus your energies into this wonderful congregation. We know that ministers and staff members will come and go, but this congregation remains through it all. There are those of you who've been around long enough to know this, so I hope that you'll hold your friends who have not to understand. This is a tough transition, but I wonder how it might be transformative for all of us. I wore my butterfly earrings this morning in honor of transformation. UUCF will survive and quite possibly thrive with the determination of committed members and volunteers and staff that has stuck together for so long. UUCF is capable of great things, and I hope you can feel that. I can't thank you enough for the incredible foundation that you all have provided over the past 3 years and 3 months. I will never forget you. Thank you.